The Ashes of Andromeda. A science fiction audiobook series. Part 1. People always ask when I knew the war had really started. Not the official start. Not the dates they printed on medals or etched into stone. I mean the real start, the moment the sky broke, and we stopped pretending peace was permanent. For me, it was the day our evac ship got hit over Crescent 3. We were supposed to be pulling out scientists. We ended up dragging corpses out of a flaming hull. That was the first time I saw a Valari ship with my own eyes. And the last time I thought they might be anything like us. 12 years ago, Crescent 3. The alarms were already screaming when I ran into the hold. Everyone was shouting over each other. Crew, Marines, medics. I could barely hear my own voice through the static and klaxons. "Where's the fire?" I yelled, shouldering past a tech officer. "Aft vent, reactor line." "Valari torpedo clipped us," the woman shouted back, blood on her sleeve. The Icarus Dawn was a mid-tier evac ship. Not built for speed. Definitely not built for a fight. The Valari had followed us through the upper rings like they were toying with us, flicking plasma rounds across our nose just to watch us squirm. I ducked into the command bay, heart pounding. Captain Norii was strapped in, one arm locked across his chest with a tourniquet. Burned. Bad. But still barking orders. "Myles," he growled, voice like gravel. "Get the scientists to Pod 3. Launch them now, damn the clearance codes." "Understood," I said, already moving. "What about you?" He looked me in the eye and grinned through the pain. "I've got a date with a Valari god. Don't keep her waiting." Pod 3 was down 2 decks and swaying like a lifeboat in a hurricane. The evac tube had twisted from the hit. Metal screeched every time the ship shuddered. 2 medics were trying to calm a xenobiologist who'd lost her glasses and her mind in the same instant. "Hey! You're boarding, not bargaining." I snapped, grabbing her by the shoulders. She blinked at me, shaking. "My research, my lab. Not worth your lungs in a vacuum. Move." I shoved her gently but firmly into the pod. Once the rest were inside, I slammed the panel and hit eject. The pod shot into the black.
No ceremony. No fanfare.
Just a hiss of gas and a metal thunk. I stared at the door for a second, breathing hard. That was the first time I sent people to safety knowing I probably wouldn't be joining them. "Lira," came a voice over the comm. It was Jex, Corporal Jex Alero, one of mine. Smart-mouthed, sharp-eyed. He was in the weapons bay trying to keep us covered. "They're coming back around. 3 hostiles. Looks like they want to finish the job." "Weapons status?" I asked. "One plasma turret half-working. The other's toast. We've got a slingshot and a prayer." "Then start praying," I said, turning toward the emergency ladder. I reached the upper deck just in time to see it, the Valari fighter looping past our starboard. Sleek, silver-black, like a dagger made of shadow.
No windows. No markings.
Just death with engines. It fired once. The beam hit us midsection. Whole rooms folded inward like paper. And I saw Norii's command bay vanish in flame. I remember yelling. I remember someone pulling me down behind the blast door. But most of all, I remember thinking, they don't fight like us. They don't think like us. And they're not here for land or power. They were here to erase us. That was the first Valari ambush on a civilian evac route. Officially, the Union called it an escalation. Unofficially, that's the day the galaxy changed. And the day I stopped believing we were going to win easily, if at all. I didn't become a commander because I wanted medals. I became one because someone had to stay behind. And someone had to remember how it all started. With smoke in the sky, and fire at our backs. You learn real fast that surviving isn't the same as making it out. A lot of people escaped Crescent 3 that day. Fewer of them ever truly walked away from it. Sometimes survival is just what's left over after everything else burns. 12 years ago, outer medbay, Union recovery ship Saberlight. The lights in the ceiling buzzed, too bright, too clean. My head hurt. The sheets under me were stiff, regulation issue. The kind they use when you're not expected to stay long. Or when you're not expected to need comfort. My ribs were bandaged. Right shoulder bruised. Eyes dry as hell. They said I'd been unconscious for 16 hours. I believed them. I sat up slow, scanning the room. 4 other cots. 1 nurse on silent rounds. And 2 people sitting in the corner like they were afraid of touching the floor. Jex Alero was one of them. His arm was in a sling, and his leg looked like it had been kissed by a freight engine. Still had that same cocky slouch though, like he didn't know how to sit any other way. "Hey," I said, my voice rasping out. He looked up. Gave me a tired grin. "Hey yourself. Took you long enough to join the living." "I was busy watching the ship explode," I muttered. Across from him sat a girl. No older than 20. Pale, twitchy. Wearing a blood-stained Union jumpsuit 2 sizes too big. I didn't recognize her. Jex nodded toward her. "That's Rena. Civilian comms tech from the evac list." She patched into the emergency beacon manually. Bare hands and a cracked relay panel. "That so?" I asked, turning to her. She didn't say anything. Just stared at the wall. Her fingers tapped a rhythm on her knee, over and over like she didn't even notice. "She's not talking much," Jex said quietly. She saw the port wing come off. Her brother was on it. I swallowed hard. The taste of smoke and blood was still in the back of my throat. "How many made it off the Icarus Dawn?" Jex didn't answer right away. 43. Out of 126. He said it flat, no sugar. I looked down at my hands. Burned knuckles. Dried blood under the nails. My own, maybe. Someone else's. Didn't matter. "They say anything about the Volari?" I asked. Only that it wasn't sanctioned. Unknown splinter faction. You know, the usual way of saying, "We have no idea what the hell just happened." He paused. "But they didn't leave, Lira. They stuck around after the kill. Circled the debris like they were, watching." That gave me chills in places I didn't know could freeze. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and in walked someone I hadn't seen since officer candidacy. Colonel Ardenvaux. Same stiff jaw, same surgical stare. He walked like a man who thought time itself owed him respect. "Commander Myles," he said, nodding once. "Glad you're vertical. We need to debrief." I blinked. Didn't know I was back on active. "You're not. Yet. But this incident is getting reviewed by High Command. They're considering a full classification shift." "To what?" He met my eyes and didn't blink. "Va footing." I let out a slow breath. "We're finally calling it that, huh?" "Not publicly," Voss said. "But make no mistake. What happened over Crescent wasn't a one-off." He handed me a datapad. The screen showed a star map, flashing red dots across 5 sectors. There were 6 other attacks in the last 24 hours. All civilian. All targeted. All Volari. Later that night, after Voss left and the med lights dimmed, I sat with Jex in the hall outside the bay. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Eventually he broke the silence. "You ever think maybe we're not ready for this kind of war?" he asked, his voice low. I thought about the Volari ship slicing through our hull like it was paper. I thought about the girl with her brother's blood still on her sleeve. I thought about 43 people crammed into a pod designed for 30. "I don't think we've got a choice," I said. The day after the Icarus Dawn fell, I got offered a position on a new frontline unit. No name yet. Just a call sign, Black Star Group. I should have turned it down. But war doesn't wait for the polite ones. It takes whoever's still standing. And I was still standing. The first thing you learn about Black Ops units? They don't ask for volunteers. They just pick survivors. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. The ones who already learned how to live through hell and keep walking. 12 years ago, Union Outpost 9, classified orbit. They flew us in under blackout protocols. No window view, no external comms. Just the low hum of inertial dampeners and the quiet coughs of a shuttle full of people trying not to think too loud. There were 9 of us. 9 people who weren't supposed to be alive. Jex sat next to me, staring straight ahead. He hadn't spoken since we left the Saberlight. Rena was across the aisle, clutching a bag like it held her last remaining nerve. Her hands never stopped shaking. There were others too, faces I hadn't seen back on Icarus Dawn. A tall woman with Union Ranger tats across her collarbone. A scarred guy with half his face rebuilt in synthskin. 2 engineers, a medic, and a man who hadn't said a word since we boarded. I leaned toward Jex and whispered, "Any of this looks standard to you?" He gave a tiny shrug. Standard died with the ship. The shuttle docked with a hiss and a mechanical clunk that vibrated through the floor. The door opened. Waiting inside the Deccan corridor was a man in a dark gray coat. No rank, no insignia, no expression. He looked like someone who judged things for a living. Out. Single file. No questions yet. His voice was dry and clipped, like he'd already explained himself too many times today. We filed into a white hallway with soft, humming walls.
No windows.
No signs. No way to tell which direction led to freedom. Eventually, they herded us into a long, low room with folding chairs and a large screen at the front. Looked like a briefing chamber stripped down for speed. The man with the grey coat stepped forward.
I am Director KL Rane. Jure hier because jure alive when you shouldn't be.
That makes you eligible for something new. No welcome.
No salute.
Just facts. He tapped a button.
The screen lit up with the symbol of a black star on a cracked Union crest.
Black Star Group is an unofficial response unit. You will not appear on deployment logs. Your actions will not be reviewed by civilian courts. You will go where the Union cannot. Do what official units won't. Why us? Rena asked quietly. Her voice was cracked but clear. Rain's gaze snapped to her like a hawk spotting movement. Because you've already seen what the Valari are willing to do. And you're still here. Jex raised an eyebrow. So we're cannon fodder with a cooler name? Rain almost smiled.
No. Jure first atas.
The kind of spark we throw behind enemy lines to make them burn from the inside. He walked the line in front of us, slow and surgical. You'll be trained hard, deployed fast, and forgotten faster. You'll lose friends, pieces of yourself, maybe even your name. He stopped in front of me. You can say no, but you won't. He was right. None of us said no. The next 2 weeks were a blur of waking up in pain and falling asleep too tired to dream. We trained in gravity flux, drilled under blackout conditions, ran simulations against enemies that didn't play fair, because real enemies never do. Black Star wasn't just a unit. It was a forge. And we were the broken metal being melted down for a new shape. I learned the names of the others.
Etarin Vale, the ranga with the neck Inc. ex-special forces, dis honor appli dish aget for disobeying a stand down order to save civilians. Corinne Dusk, the SYNT Haskin Gi explosives expert.
Rumored to have defused a Valari biobomb with a cracked lens and a wet rag. Rena Voss, the comms tech. Turned out she wasn't just good with wires. She could mimic alien signal patterns better than most AI. Sil Toma, the quiet medic, once treated wounded under Valari fire for 30 hours straight during the Aaron collapse.
Neva lost a patient.
And then there was Commander Tavos Elian, our official CO. Tall, grim, and always 2 steps ahead of your worst-case scenario. He'd led more ghost missions than were ever admitted. His face was in no database. His service record was 90% redacted. The first time we saw him, he stood in front of us like he was weighing us against the mission before we even got assigned one. You're not soldiers anymore, he told us. You're assets. And assets don't win wars. They end them before they begin. You don't realize how much of yourself you leave behind in those first weeks. Sleep schedules.
Moral lines.
The idea that you're fighting for something pure.
Black Star strippet US to the bone.
Then it gave us weapons and pointed at a storm. And we ran straight into it. They called it a recon test. But deep down, we all knew the Union doesn't waste a classified ops team on a test.
Not without a reason.
And never without a body count. 12 years ago, dead orbit range, grid 7A. Our shuttle slipped into black space like a blade sliding under skin. We were heading for a derelict listening post called Echo 7, floating in a dead patch of space where long-range comms used to track border activity. It had gone silent 3 months earlier. Union Command tagged it as likely debris malfunction.
Black Star tagged it as high interest.
You ever get a good feeling from a place named Echo? Jex muttered, tightening the strap on his rifle.
I shook my head. Nope.
Anything that whispers usually wants to scream later. Tavas stood at the front of the cabin, arms crossed, reading our mission brief off a palm screen with zero emotion. Echo 7 went dark.
No comms. No distress. No salvage.
Your job is to get in, map the situation, extract the core logs, and get out. He glanced up, scanning each of us. If anything moves that isn't you, put it down. Rena Voss, already keyed into the local signals, spoke up with a frown. I'm picking up static anomalies around the station. Like something's bouncing signal ghosts, repeats of dead transmissions. Terran Vale, standing beside her, grunted. Spoofing patterns? Rena nodded. Or feedback loops. Could be deliberate. Corinne Dask cracked his knuckles. Could be Valari testing us. They love bait. Tavas just gave us one sharp nod. Then bite hard. We breached the outer lock 30 minutes later. The station greeted us with dead lights and no atmosphere. Everything was coated in dust, the floating kind, dry and slow-moving like it forgot what gravity felt like. No signs of breach, I reported, peering through my visor as we swept through the cargo corridor. Looks abandoned, but clean. Too clean. Terran knelt beside a cracked terminal and scraped a sample off the floor. This dust isn't natural. It's synthetic. Nanofiber residue. Corinne's voice came through comms, lower now. They sterilized the place. We moved room by room, standard stack, point, flank, rear. Weapons up. Every angle cleared twice. Then we hit the core chamber. The door had been sealed manually. Welded, not locked. That's never a good sign. Jex on me, I said, pulling out the magnetic torch. He flanked left. I cut the weld. The door hissed open. Inside, we found a room that didn't match the rest of the station. It was pristine. Powered. Warm. The central console glowed faint blue. And sitting in front of it, head slumped forward, was a technician in full Union gear. Long dead. Terran moved in first, rifle up. Corpse is cold. Chest cavity collapsed. No signs of struggle. Rena stepped in cautiously, examining the logs. Her brow furrowed. These recordings. They loop. Same message. Over and over again. She tapped a button. The room filled with static, followed by a whisper-soft voice crackling through the speakers. They are beneath us. They are within us. They are not gone. Do not. The recording cut. A pause. Then it repeated. Jex exhaled slowly. Okay, that's comforting. Tavas stepped forward. His voice stayed calm, but his posture shifted, rigid, alert. Grab everything. Core drive, backup logs, that body's retinal chip if you have to. We're out in 10. Corinne scanned the vent shaft overhead. Anyone else feel like we're being watched? I did. Every inch of my skin felt tight inside the suit. That sixth sense, that gut-level hum that says you're not alone. We moved fast. Stripped the core. Tagged the logs. Jex handled the chip extraction with a surgeon's efficiency. Just as we turned to leave, the lights went out. And then we heard it. A scraping sound. Not metal. Not human. Something slow and wet. No one died that day. But we left part of ourselves on Echo 7. Not in blood. In memory. Because some ghosts don't haunt you with screams. They haunt you with silence. And the sound of something moving in the dark. That never should have been alive. Some missions end when you leave the station. Some follow you back and wait in the quiet. Echo 7 didn't kill us when we were inside. But it marked us. And 2 days after we got back, it whispered again. 12 years ago, Union Recon Post Theta 5. We docked with Post Theta 5 at 0300 hours. Standard debrief protocols, medcheck, equipment scans. The usual cover-your-ass drill the Union ran every time something didn't go as planned. None of us said a word on the way in. Rena was unusually quiet. Corinne kept glancing at corners like he expected them to move. Jex had that look, the one that says something's wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. We got split up as soon as we cleared Bay quarantine. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a cold white debrief room, across from a new face I didn't recognize. "Commander Lira Myles," said the man. He wore a plain black coat with no insignia. His eyes didn't blink enough. "That's me," I said carefully.
Jure Not Union Bress. Who are you?
"Director Cairn," he said with a smile that didn't fit his face.
Blackstar Oversight.
"I'm here to talk about Echo 7. "Then talk," I replied, arms crossed. He leaned forward, hands clasped. "What did you feel when you were inside that station? Not what did I see. Not what did I find. What did I feel? That was the first red flag. I felt like we weren't supposed to be there," I said slowly. "I felt like it wanted us gone." "It?" he echoed, cocking his head. "The station," I replied. "But I didn't mean the metal." And he knew it. Cairn stood up, paced once. "You recovered the core logs. You extracted the text chip. But you didn't hear the rest of the message, did you?"
I narrowed my eyes.
There was more. He turned, gaze steady. "There always is." That night, Jex woke up screaming. We were billeted in adjacent quarters. I heard his voice echo through the hall like he was being burned alive. By the time I got there, Corinne and Renna were already trying to restrain him.
"Get off me. Get it off me.
"It's inside."
Jex thrashed against the wall, kicking, eiswild.
"It's talking, it won't stop, I can hear it think." I grabbed his face, forced his eyes on mine. "Jex.
Listen to me. Therese noting here."
He locked onto me, gasping, drenched in sweat. "It's not here, Lira. It's in us. It came back with us."
The signals alive. Renna luoket pale.
He's not the only one. I've been hearing the loop, off-cycle, not through comms. It's like it's echoing inside my suit.
Inside my skull.
Corinne swore and backed up. "We need to report this. Now. Before it spreads." I nodded. But Blackstar was already ahead of us. Within an hour, we were locked down.
No comms. No exit.
They called it medical quarantine, but the guards outside were armed like we were about to turn into monsters. That was the beginning of the end for our team. We walked out of Echo 7 with our weapons. But something else walked out with us. We didn't know it yet, but we just brought home the first whisper of a new kind of war. One not fought with fleets. One fought in the mind. They told us the quarantine was precautionary. Just until the scans cleared. Just until they were sure. But precaution doesn't come with rifles. And the thing is, when people start hearing voices that don't use words, you stop trusting doors, walls, and each other. 12 years ago, quarantine level, Union Recon Post Theta 5. They sealed us inside a cold medical suite with steel walls and no clocks.
No windows.
Just recycled air and silence that felt like it was watching us. It didn't take long for the breakdown to start. Renna sat on her cot with her knees pulled up, muttering numbers under her breath. 5, 3, 2, 5 again. It's looping. I hear it, but it's not audio. It's in the spine. "Renna," I said softly, crouching by her side, "you're just rattled." "We all are. It's probably post-mission compression, adrenaline rebound." "Don't patronize me, Lira," she snapped, looking straight through me. "You feel it too. In the back of your skull. Like something pressing down on your thoughts, trying to tune them." I didn't answer. Because she wasn't wrong. I'd been hearing something since the moment we undocked from Echo 7. Not a voice. Not a sound. More like an urge. Like a whisper you feel, not hear. Something curious. Something patient. Corinne was pacing, hands clenched. "They're not gonna let us out. You know that, right? Whatever we brought back, they're scared of it." I saw the outside feed. "They've posted sentinels." "You mean anti-breach bots?" I asked. "I mean anti-US bots," he said grimly. "We're not assets anymore. We're test cases." Jex was lying on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. He hadn't spoken in hours. Just kept clenching and unclenching his jaw like he was biting down on something invisible. I walked over and sat beside him. "Jex, you with me?" I asked quietly. He blinked. I saw my daughter. In the dark. She wasn't speaking, but I understood her. "What did she say?" She said I'm not me anymore. She said I was overwritten. He turned and looked at me, and I swear, for a second I didn't recognize him. By day 3, the symptoms had names. They called it signal-linked psychogenic feedback. I called it signal-sick. But they weren't treating it. They were studying it. Director Cairn came back, this time behind reinforced glass. "Commander," he said through the speaker, "I need you to answer something. Are you still in control of your thoughts?" "Yes," I said without flinching. "Have you felt urges to harm others? Speak in patterns? Hear unauthorized code?"
No. Primelit.
Because I had heard code. In my dreams. On the edge of sleep, my brain whispered phrases I didn't understand but still remembered. One of them repeated over and over. "Reactivate echo, reactivate echo, reactivate echo." Rena snapped first. I found her in the med room at 0200 hours. She had cut a circle into her forearm with a maintenance scalpel. Not deep, but careful. Surgical. Like she was trying to open something. "It's inside Lira," she said, trembling. "If I can get it out, we can all be free." "There's nothing in you," I said firmly, trying to hold her wrist. "You're just." "You don't understand," she cried. "I'm not me anymore. It's like I've got backup thoughts. Like my memories have a second layer." She shoved me away. "We're becoming transmitters. They don't need antennas. They need hosts." They didn't want to believe us. Because if they did, it meant something worse than a virus. It meant the signal itself was intelligent. A life form made of data. Or thought. Or something we didn't even have a word for. And we hadn't found it. It had sent itself. I used to think war meant guns, orders, and losses you could count. But what do you call it when your enemy walks barefoot through your memories? When the fight happens inside your thoughts. That's the war we didn't train for. That's the war that started on day 4. 12 years ago, quarantine level, Union Recon Post Theta 5. We weren't alone in that room anymore. I don't mean the medtechs or the guards behind the sealed blast doors. I mean inside. Inside our minds, things were changing. Rena stopped talking altogether. She'd carved more shapes into her arm, circles within circles, and lined her cot with torn fabric strips like some kind of ritual. When I asked why, she just stared at me, lips moving silently like she was reciting to someone I couldn't hear. Corinne had built a transmitter. He'd disassembled the emergency beacon panel and rewired it using parts from a service bot's vocal array. Sloppy, unstable but powered. "You're gonna get yourself shot," I warned him, crouching beside the makeshift rig. "Not if I get answers first," he said, sweat dripping from his forehead. "You feel it too. Don't pretend. Something's listening. Hell, maybe it wants to talk." "And if you reach it?" I asked. "Then maybe we find out if this is an infection, or an invitation." He powered it up at 317 local. Rena started humming immediately. Jex sat bolt upright like he'd been slapped. I was standing closest to the rig, watching the old LED interface flicker between diagnostics. At first, it showed static. Then pulses. Then nothing. And then a word. One word. Written in green letters across the analog screen. "Listening." Corinne stepped back, breathing heavy. "It's real," he whispered. "It's watching us in real time." "Back away from it," I ordered. But he didn't. He typed something instead. "Who are you?" There was a long pause. And then the screen flickered again. "You knew US." We all froze.
Corinne starret at the monitor, eyes wide.
"New," he muttered. "The hell does that mean?" He typed again.
"What do you want?"
The response came faster this time. "To finish the conversation."
"What conversation?"
I asked under my breath. And then another line appeared.
"Remember echo."
The beacon died.
"Sparks flee," Corinne screamed, and half the lights in the suite cut out.
Jex grabbed his head and collapsed. Rena started crying, not like she was scared, but like she was grieving. I was on my feet, yelling for the medtechs, but no one came. Not a soul. 2 hours later, we were pulled from quarantine. Not because they thought we were better, but because something was coming down the channel fast, and we were the only ones who'd already spoken to it. They sent us to a black site under Union signal control. Tighter security, more tests. No explanations. On the way out, I passed a mirror in the Deccan corridor. For a second, I swear I saw someone else's eyes in my face. I know how that sounds.
Like cracked.
Like the pressure broke me. But I wasn't the only one seeing shadows that wore our faces. And I wasn't the only one who felt that chill when the signal replied. Whatever it was, it knew us. Not like an enemy knows their prey. More like an echo knows the voice that made it. I used to think identity was simple. You're born, you grow, you remember, you become.
But what if your memories don't belong to you?
What if they're on loan? Or worse, replicated? That's what I faced in the Blacksite labs. A version of myself I never lived. But someone or something remembered.
12 years ago, Union Signal Control Blacksite.
We were processed through 13 levels of security.
EVR scan, EVR blood pull, EVR neurological pass.
They didn't speak to us like people anymore. They spoke like they were logging equipment failures. Corinne hadn't spoken since the signal fried his rig. He just stared at his hands like they'd been contaminated. Rena was sedated. Not because she was violent, but because she kept whispering sequences that matched old military encryption patterns. Patterns she couldn't possibly know. And Jex? He wasn't looking at anything. Not the guards. Not me. His eyes tracked movement that wasn't there. They put me in a white-walled room with a desk, a chair, and a transceiver terminal. Then a man I didn't recognize walked in wearing an officer's insignia I hadn't seen since academy. "Commander Myles," he said calmly, setting down a case. "You're going to help us speak to the signal again. And if I say no? Then we'll ask your team, starting with Rena, while she's still coherent."
He said.
He opened the case. Inside was a neural sync band, a lightweight headpiece laced with micronodes. Old tech. Experimental. I knew it because I'd tested the prototype in war games 6 years ago. "This model was discontinued," I said carefully. "No," he replied, powering it up. "It was archived. And something, dug it back out. They strapped it on. The moment it activated, I felt pressure behind my eyes. Not pain, more like displacement. Like my thoughts weren't sitting where they used to. The console lit up.
No keyboard. No mic.
Just a prompt. Begin recall? I hesitated. Then whispered, begin. The screen flickered. And then I saw it. Not a message. Not a phrase. A memory. Not mine. But seen through my eyes. I was on a frozen plateau. Twin moons above. A child ran across the ice, laughing. She called out, "Mama, look." My heart caught. I don't have a daughter. I never had a child. But I knew that laugh. I felt love. And then it cracked. The sky split. The ice bled light. And a voice, calm and vast, whispered, "You forgot us. We remember you." The console shorted out.